Hold for just another moment, just to allow any other participants to join.
We're gonna be for like I think for like half an hour. Um,
Yeah, this is scheduled for an hour, and it may or may not take up a full
it won't
hour.
take like an hour. It's like more like questions about like an upcoming grant. That's what I'm saying. So no, show collaborative skills, fine, why not? But not just be like,
Okay, well, I have after the hour, so we can go ahead and get started. It looks like, just want to make sure we've got a couple of people are still entering the room here. Hi, John.
Hey there, Anna. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
We're just getting a few more people logging in, so I'll give it just another minute before we get started. Hey, Jenna.
Hi, good afternoon.
I knew we were waiting for another program manager. So there she is. That's great. All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like we have our program managers here, and that would be Brian Robinson and Jenna Payne. So thank you both for being here. Still have a couple more entering.
All right.
All right, so I'll go ahead and start this by just letting everybody know that this session is being recorded. So if you don't consent to being recorded or being a part of this recording, then you should probably go ahead and drop off the call now, since this is being recorded. And I'll begin with an introduction to the CINR office hours. And so this is an inaugural event that the Office of Nuclear Energy is supporting. And the goal of the office hours opportunity is so that the university community will have a greater opportunity to interact with the federal and the technical points of contact for the work scopes and topic areas of the CINR funding opportunity. And the three main objectives of the office hours are to better understand the ongoing programmatic activities in the areas, to ask and receive clarifications about what fits within the nuclear energy mission and the relevant topic areas, and also to build better communication between both the universities and the programs. And so, with that in mind, as you ask questions, please keep that in mind. And also, one thing I want you to keep in mind, and I want to point out, is that this year, relevancy will focus more heavily on the mission of the Office of Nuclear Energy, which I'll keep referring to as the NE mission. So, the NE mission will be a big factor in relevancy, and that's a little bit different than in years past, and there will be less emphasis on program priority. So please understand that the work scopes this year were left intentionally broad to allow for a wide variety of topics and ideas that are relevant to NE's mission and much less focus on specific programmatic needs. So as you have questions, please go ahead and navigate to the upper portion of your Teams screen where there is the reactions button, and you can raise your hand by using that button, and I'll call on you as you raise your hand. But before doing so, I want to invite the program managers, both Brian Robinson and Jenna Payne, if they would like to introduce their IRP area, provide any thoughts or any information that they just want to open with. So Brian and Jenna, I'll give you a moment if you would like to add anything.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I certainly I'm glad Anna laid out the whole mission, because I think this can be a bit confusing the way that we've done our NEIPs in the past. They've been much more focused on our program priorities, and just to reemphasize, the IRP-1 Grand Challenge is much broader in its application. but that means that we'll probably also be have to have much more details on what the depth and breadth of the application or the proposals will have. So I would just I would caution people to know what's going on out there. You can always reach back to me as the program lead for many of these for fast reactors or molten salt reactors. But if there's something else that needs to be explored, I can certainly put you in touch with the national technical directors or other federal POC so those things can be answered so that the proposals won't be short. I expect many of the universities to put on a very good showing of these proposals. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can tell you that every year the applications have gotten better and better and better. So this will be sort of a top shelf proposal as it comes forward. This is up to $3 million, and we are focusing on accelerating reactor deployments. So with our current ARDP, the Advanced Reactor Development Program, you can get a lot off of the internet, or you can reach back to me to find out what those awards were. But those areas that we're focusing on aren't just in the 7 awards that went out and the ARC awards, which is 3 more for a total of 10. So there's nothing that narrows them down, but they would give you an opportunity of knowing what accelerating reactor deployments would be and how they would apply to the current ARDP program. Other than that, I'm just here for questions. So thank you, Anna.
Okay, thanks, Anna, for the introduction and everything. I'll just, for the IRP-2 Grand Challenge Research and Development at Minority Serving Institutions, I'll just add that it's a major effort in the Office of Nuclear Energy to really expand the role of minority serving institutions and those who haven't historically participated in our program in the past. So I'm really excited about this scope. It's very wide open scope, as you can see. From the FOA, as long as you're proposing something that falls within the NE mission, which is outlined there. It's pretty open, so we can really invite all of those really creative ideas and get the participation from these institutions that we're looking for. So like Brian, just here to happy to answer any questions that anybody has. So thanks.
All right, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Jenna. And so with that, we can start taking questions from the audience. So go ahead and you can use the reactions button again to raise your hand. And when we have a hand raised, I'll call on you and you can ask your question. And I've learned in other office hours, sometimes it takes a moment to start wrapping your brain around which questions you want to ask and how you want to formulate those questions. So we'll give it a moment. And as we're waiting for questions, some of the information that we provide closer to the end of the office hour session, I'll go ahead and provide some of that information right now. One of those items is a link for some resources that may be helpful. And I'll go ahead and post this in the chat. And if you navigate to this link, that will take you to the NEUP website. And this page in particular lists many resources. The resources include the FOAs themselves, as well as work scope specific questions and answers that have arisen through the webinar, through emailed correspondence, and through these office hour sessions are all included there. And recordings of the office hour sessions can also be accessed from this link. So hopefully that will be a valuable resource for you.
And I could just add something. I see there's a question, so we could do that first.
Okay, John, we'll go ahead and do that first. So Majdi, thank you for raising your hand. Go ahead and come off mute and ask your question, please.
Thanks, Anna. And sorry, John. So I will kick this off. So I do have a question for IRP-1. Actually, two questions. The first one, when we say accelerating reactor deployment, I mean, are we looking here on reactor siting or reactor design or licensing? Or is it like, you know, if we improve operation and maintenance, for example, for advanced reactor, does this consider as accelerating reactor deployment? So, or are all these topics are also responsive for this? So that's the first question. The second one is, if we pick a reactor design and then propose to make some improvements on it, is this also responsive for IRP, like, you know, reactor development or reactor design? That's it for me. Thank you.
All right, so I'll take those questions real quickly. So to your first question, where you asked a multitude of different ways of accelerating deployment, and your end of that was correct. All of those would apply. The recommendations that I would have is make sure if you're going to put things in there like maintenance, you have to be specific to how it accelerates. Does it cut down on time? Does it help licensing? Does it what are the impacts, you know, the whys and the hows? So when you're bringing something out over something that is existing for a new advanced reactor deployment, it may be a bit difficult. So that's what I was saying at the very beginning, referencing making sure that you have the breadth and depth. So if you don't have much of that information, you could certainly reach back out and we could try and give you as much information that's in the open space. So to your second question, you mentioned about modifying a current design. So while there aren't many things that I would say are limiting in this, I will go back and reiterate that modifying a design, it doesn't mean it's accelerating reactor deployment.
I see.
So if you're modifying it, and I'm just going to pull something out for as an example, and say I was going to take a current design of whatever ABC reactor, and part of modifying it is making it, you know, taking the Henry Ford concept and putting it into a buildable, build out, smaller pieces, plug and play, get them all together, which would cut down on manufacturing and shipping cost, things like that. Well, that would be perfect for an example. But again, you would have to explain in depth of what that means. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah, thanks a lot, Brian. So I think so the whole idea is whatever we are going to propose, we need to make a clear connection between how the idea would really accelerate the reactor deployment, right?
Yes. Yeah, and you could do it a variety of ways. You know, you can look at capital investments, O&M, de-risking, you know, making it faster to assemble. There's many ways of getting to this product.
I see. Thanks a lot, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Majdi. So again, please raise your hand if you have questions, and we will call on you to ask your questions. And Majdi, if you have additional follow-up questions, you're welcome to ask those too.
Thanks, Anna. Should be fine.
Okay, thank you. So John, while we're waiting for questions to be asked, if you want to come off mute and share what you were going to share earlier, you're welcome to do that now.
Okay, thank you, Anna. No, it's just to explain a little bit more about the concept here for both these scopes, being so broad, based on the NE mission, of course, which is broad in itself, pertaining to any nuclear energy related topic. And I think the burden of proof in writing these proposals, when it is so broad, is up to the proposer to make sure that they stress the need and the importance of their proposal and how it does satisfy the NE mission and is important for the NE mission and has perhaps been not covered before. And for that reason, the new work proposed is creative and innovative. That would have to be explained as well. And then, of course, that it's doable within budget on time and that you have the right people to do it. All that burden falls on to, the proposer, which is as it should be. But in a broad work scopes like we have, I think you have to pay attention to all those aspects when you write your proposal, because you're really making the case for your particular effort that's got to really satisfy all of those things. That's all I wanted to say.
Great. Thank you for that information, John. That's very helpful. So we'll wait for a moment to see if any other questions arise. And as we're waiting, Brian and Jenna, if you have any additional information you would like to share, with the understanding that that information will go out in this recording and you feel might be useful, again, you're more than welcome to add whatever you would like as we're waiting for questions.
I don't know if it's been put out there. You did put out the NEUP page earlier, but we've gone back to the NE mission several times, and I would ask for people just to do a Google search and open up Office of Nuclear Energy mission for Office of Nuclear Energy Strategic Vision and become familiar with exactly what those statements are, so you understand how it applies. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Brian. I'm sorry. Thank you, Brian. I was actually going through the funding opportunity right now. I know we've got the NE mission statement in the FOA itself. I thought maybe I'd share that on my screen here as we're waiting for questions. Yeah, and I believe it is just this portion right at the beginning on page 1, part 1. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. While we're waiting, I'm not sure if there's any more questions, but the reason I wanted to bring this out was traditionally our previous NEUP CINRs have focused much more on advanced reactors. And as you can see, this statement is a bit broader than that. And that's why I just wanted to point everyone into what we keep talking about when we're talking about our mission statement.
Yeah, that is a really good thing to point out, Brian. Thank you. Are there any other questions related to the IRP work scopes from this audience? So I'll do a final call for questions. And while we're waiting for that final round of questions, Julie has posted in the chat the email address. If you have questions that come up after this session has concluded, please email all questions to neup@inl.gov, and the integration office will then work to get you an answer to your question, an answer from the correct federal point of contact, And that answer will be relayed back to you, and it will also be posted in the question and answer document that is available to the entire NEUP community. So you can use that document as a resource for all questions asked. Okay, final call for questions. Anybody? Okay, I am going to take that as there are no more questions. Again, if there are questions that arise after this session has ended, go ahead and email those to neup@inl.gov, and we will be quick to get you a response back. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, John, for all the input. And thank you for your participation, everyone. And you can look for this recording on the link that was shared in the chat.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you all.
See you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.